Because these men were waking up every morning, going into battle, and they were waking up and standing there in their battle line, doing war cries, but too scared to fight Goliath. Every day. And then they got David. David, small as he is, coming to give food. And he just heard one time he hears Goliath bragging and literally disrespecting abantwana bakaNkulunkulu. And he's like, excuse me? Are you seriously telling me you guys are sitting here and watching someone disrespect? Something in him was awakened. You know, let me tell you something. You have to understand, people that are sidelined cannot take easily to things that disrespect their God. They don't entertain it. They don't come to the war, to the battle line and stand there and look all strong. No. They get very angry about watching izinto zikaNkulunkulu being disrespected. And I know that feeling where you just walk in and you realize people are not doing anything. They have the calling, they have the title, they have the position, but they just sitting there enjoying their position. And David was like, you know what? I'm taking this into my hand. He went to Saul and he's like, Saul, I can do this guy. I can bring him down. But you know, it's interesting how the very people who are on the forefront will start to discourage you. And Saul's like, no, man, you can't. And it's always interesting how they love to show Ugutuwena Uyini. He goes and says, Goliath has been a man since youth, has been battling since youth. When you are just a boy. David is in youth stage and still considered a boy. Do you know how irritating that is? When you know what God has called you to do and you are still considered as a nothing? Because when you don't preach like people preach, you don't walk like people walk. Seriously, I'm telling you that from experience. You get sidelined for being single. You get sidelined for not being married. Yeah, that reminds me a lot of where I come from. So, so you get sidelined. And but I love David's courage. And it actually awakened something in me where David is like, but I have a resume and references, by the way. And my references are on the sideline. What happens at the backstage. And let me tell you that I have fought lions and bears when they tried to take away what was my father's. And you see, David was called a man after God's heart because he fought for the things of God. He fought on behalf of things that belong to God. He was not occupied about looking good for the things of God, but he was occupied about protecting the things of God. He was occupied about fighting on behalf of the weak people, of the weak things of God. And a lot of us are so eager to become leaders and have positions because we want to look good for God. And we forget to fight on behalf of those who need to be fought on behalf of. And that's why David was irritated and very kindled in him to say, this man is not only disrespecting you, Saul. This man is not only disrespecting you guys, but this man is actually disrespecting God's chosen. And I'm sharing this with you today, that if you are sidelined like I am most of the time. It's okay. God is going to use your sideline to put you in the main line. And because you have in your heart understanding of who God is, God came, He sent His Son to this world, not for the healthy, not for those who knew Him, but for those who have been rejected. God sent His Son for the rejected. If you look at Jesus, He traveled, but most of all, He traveled in places that were rejected. He died outside the city where people like leprosy, people who were rejected, dwelled. He went and died for the rejected. He went and died for the sidelines. And that is what being sidelined means, is beginning to understand what it is to be rejected. I have gotten to understand people who are considered as non-Christian, that actually God has a divine appointment with them. And I have begun to see people who didn't know God get to know God when I got sidelined. And there's a greater ministry in that than being in the forefront. So, as small as you are, as sidelined as you are, just know that soon enough you are going to be in the main line. And you are going to be standing on behalf of those who are rejected. You are going to be fighting for those who are oppressed. You are going to be breaking chains put on those people who are considered as nothing because they don't behave the way a certain Christian should behave. So, I've learned something today, just reading his story, that God will use lowly things to nullify things that are great, according to man. And you know what I learned mostly is how David had to go through making a mistake of using Saul's armor. You know, he tried to walk and he realized that I can't do this. I think it was a moment for him to remember, but I wasn't using this perfect suit when I was ministering to prostitute. I wasn't. I actually have a friend who says to me it was prostitute who picked him up on the sideline and they cleansed him up, dressed him, and then they called him Mfundisi. We are so wanting great name people to call us things. And people who are sidelines are the one that will actually see the true you. Because they don't quantify you by your skills, but they quantify you by your heart and your tenderness. And I wish I could meet those prostitutes because I know that friend of mine. And today, he respects those prostitutes. Actually, he taught me to do the same thing, never to look down on them. I even have a sister in that line. And through him, I got to respect my own sister. Because truth is, we are not perfect. But I would rather be not perfect and do it in the open than hide it and act perfect and crucify those who are not perfect. I'd rather keep understanding people's imperfection and help them to walk toward perfection. And one thing I know is this: David then picked up his staff. He picked up 5 stones and he went against him. You know, they consider those the most weakest weapons you could use against Goliath. And why? Because Goliath, he came to you with a spear, he came to you with a sword, he came to you with a javelin. For crying out loud, I've always noticed this. The devil loved to habarize. Habarize that we are habarize. He comes with everything to make you feel so small. But you know what? When the devil becomes so loud and he habarizes, you need to understand that he is nothing but a small person. And you need to stand in position and know who you are. And I like what David does. You know, when he came against Goliath, you know, by the way, the devil does get offended, eh? He does. And Goliath was offended. He was like, oh my God. First of all, it's a boy. Wow, he's cute. But seriously, Nendugu, but the Bible says he started cursing David. First, uyamhleka, then uyamchwenza, then he curses him. Speaks very loud. I'm sure David might have had some goosebumps or so. But I love the courage of David, because David was drawing from God. He understood that as small as I am, greater is he who is in me than he who is standing in front of me. And I think that is something that we should appreciate about our God. Greater is he who is in me, as small as I am, than he who's in this world. And he's going to present me greater than my enemy. And David started speaking, and he said, you come against me with a spear, javelin, and everything. May I come against you, not with any weapons, but with the God I serve, with the God you've disrespected, with the God who created the heavens and the earth. And after I am done with you, this world and everybody who's looking will then understand that God doesn't need weapons, perfect people, perfect dressed people, well eloquent people to deliver abantwana bakhe. He doesn't need that. God saves using the weak things. And didn't God carry that stone all the way to here, sunk it deep? And you know the nicest thing about this, after that, the enemy didn't fall backward. The enemy fell faceward. And I'm sure Uwela eduze wa David. Because you see, God was handing over the enemy to David. And David, all he had to do was walk, pick up the sword of the enemy, and permanently cut him off. And the one thing about being small, guys, Nkulunkulu will never let us have to run for things that are ours. He will deliver your enemies, and you will end them. So never underestimate a small person. They say dynamite comes in small packages, and they make an impact. So, I believe God is going to hand over your enemies into your hands. Especially if you are sidelined like me and rejected and not wanted. Especially when you are humiliated. And you know what? The same people that sidelined you, the same people that say you are conceited, you are overconfident, the same people that say you have a strong will, the same people that try to oppress you and sideline you are the ones that are going to watch you carry that enemy in your hand. Because uNkulunkulu uyalideka itafula lakho phambi kwezitha zakho. Not because izitha zakho are bored, but because they are too preoccupied with oppressing you. And God is about to raise God is about to raise people like me. And the enemy is so preoccupied with oppressing me. It's a humbling thing to know. It's very encouraging because it keeps you patient in that sideline position. It encourages you that one day my turn will come. And when it comes, those people who wanted nothing to do with me, those people who spoke badly, are now going to say, she has a God. And I want her God. So your enemies will fall near you. And above all, Those who sidelines you will witness that.